The ship Aurora moved through the darkness of space like a white dove flying toward unknown lands. Inside, 47 humans prepared for the most important moment in their history. They were not soldiers. They were dreamers, artists, scientists, and believers in peace. Ambassador Nari Kim stood at the main window, watching the stars pass by. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Her brother, Admiral Park Jun, had begged her not to go on this mission. The Korath Empire was dangerous, he said. They had conquered 100 worlds. They knew nothing of mercy, but Nari believed in the goodness that exists in all living things. She believed that even the most violent species could learn peace if someone showed them kindness first. Ambassador, we are approaching the Korath homeworld, said Captain Han Tae from his command chair. He was a tall man with a serious face, but his eyes were soft when he looked at Nari. He had promised Admiral Jun that he would protect her with his life. Dr. Unibeek, the ship's language expert, joined Nari at the window. She had spent 3 years learning the Korath language from old transmissions. She was the reason they could speak to these aliens at all. Are you afraid? Yuna asked quietly. Nari thought for a moment. No, I am hopeful. We carry gifts, music, art, and stories. We carry the best of humanity. How can anyone hate us when we come offering friendship? The Korath homeworld grew larger in the window. It was a dark red planet covered in massive cities of black metal. Warships surrounded it like angry insects protecting their nest. The Korath had never met a species they could not crush beneath their feet. They ruled their section of the galaxy through fear and violence. The Aurora received permission to land. As the ship descended through the clouds, Nari gathered her delegation in the cargo bay. They had brought paintings from Earth's greatest artists. They had brought recordings of symphonies, songs from every culture, stories of love and hope and dreams. They had brought seeds from Earth's most beautiful flowers. Remember, Nari told them, we are not here to show strength. We are here to show heart. The galaxy has told us the Korath only understand power. But I believe every thinking creature understands love. We just need to speak its language. The ship landed in a massive courtyard of black stone. Thousands of Korath soldiers surrounded them. The aliens were tall, with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. They had 4 arms and faces that showed no emotion. Their eyes were cold and black. High Empress Velthari waited on a throne of bones. She was the largest Korath anyone had ever seen, decorated with the skulls of her enemies. When she looked at the small humans walking toward her, she felt nothing but disgust. These soft creatures dared to approach her empire. They had no armor, no weapons, no army at their back. They came with boxes of useless objects and words of friendship. In her 1,000 years of life, Velthari had never seen anything so pathetic. Nari bowed respectfully and began her speech. She spoke of Earth, a small blue world where humans had learned to stop fighting each other. She spoke of their desire to join the galactic community in peace. She offered trade, cultural exchange, and friendship. The Korath watched in silence. Some began to laugh, a harsh clicking sound that echoed through the courtyard. Velthari raised one of her massive arms. The laughing stopped. You come to us without weapons, she said, her voice like grinding stones. You bring toys and noise. You speak of peace. She leaned forward, her black eyes fixed on Nari. In our language, peace means surrender, and surrender means death. Nari did not step back. She met the Empress's gaze with calm courage. In our language, peace means friendship. It means 2 peoples helping each other grow. We offer you our hand in respect. Velthari stood from her throne. She was 3 times Nari's height. Then you are fools? And fools do not deserve to live. What happened next was broadcast across every frequency in the galaxy. The Korath wanted everyone to see. They wanted every species to know what happened to the weak. The 47 humans were seized by soldiers. They did not fight. They could not fight. They had brought no weapons, because weapons were not the message they wanted to send. Captain Tay tried to shield Nari, but he was torn away and thrown to the ground. Dr. Yuna screamed as soldiers dragged her toward the execution platform. One by one, the dreamers, the artists, the scientists, the believers in peace were killed while the galaxy watched. I was last. She stood before the Empress, blood on her white robes, but her eyes still held no hate. Only sadness. You could have had friends, she said softly. You could have had partners. Instead, you will have enemies. Humanity will remember this. Lothari laughed. Humanity will do nothing. You are weak. You will hide on your little blue world and tremble. Nari smiled, and something in that smile made several Korath soldiers step back. You do not know us at all. The blade fell. On Earth, Admiral Park Jun watched the transmission end. He watched his sister die with courage he could barely understand. Around him, the entire planet fell silent. Billions of humans saw what happened. Billions of humans felt something ancient wake up inside them, something the galaxy had never seen, something the Korath would learn to fear. Jun turned off the screen. His hands did not shake. His voice did not break. He simply looked at General Suhai Choi and spoke 3 words that would change the universe forever. Prepare the fleet. 3 weeks passed after the massacre. The galaxy waited and watched, expecting humanity to send messages of surrender. They expected tears, begging, promises to stay away from Korath space forever. Instead, there was silence. No transmissions came from Earth. No diplomatic channels opened. The small blue planet simply went quiet, as if it had disappeared from the universe entirely. The Galactic Council, made up of 12 species who had long ago submitted to Korath power, sent their condolences. We are sorry for your loss, they said. The Korath are strong. It is best to accept your place in the galaxy. Perhaps in a few centuries, they will forget about you. Earth did not respond. Some alien species laughed at humanity's attempt at diplomacy. Foolish creatures, they said. They sent artists and poets to meet the Korath. What did they expect? They shared the execution video as entertainment, mocking the soft pink creatures who thought kindness could stop a blade. High Empress Velthari grew bored of waiting. She had expected screaming and panic. She had expected fun. This silence was disappointing. She ordered her 3rd Armada to travel to Earth and finish what she had started. 1,200 warships, each one capable of burning a continent, began their journey toward the small blue world. Bring me their planet as a trophy, she commanded. I want to watch it crack. The galaxy nodded in agreement. This was how things worked. The strong crushed the weak. The Korath would add another species to their long list of conquests. And life would continue as it always had. But deep beneath Earth's surface, something very different was happening. Admiral Park Jun stood in a command center that officially did not exist. Around him, thousands of officers worked at stations, coordinating the largest military mobilization in human history. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields for decades received orders to activate. Weapons that had been banned after Earth's last great war were brought out of storage. Scientists who had sworn never to use their knowledge for destruction looked at the execution video one more time and changed their minds. Lieutenant Myra Yoon stood beside the Admiral, reading reports from every sector. She was young, only 28, but she had seen enough death to last several lifetimes. As a child, she had survived the Titan Station massacre, where a reactor failure killed everyone she loved. She understood loss. She understood the cold anger that comes after grief fades. Admiral, the 3rd Armada will arrive in 6 days. she reported. 1,200 ships. 4 million Korean soldiers. June nodded slowly. How many ships do we have ready? 843. But sir, our ships are smaller. Our technology is newer but untested in real combat. Numbers do not win wars, Lieutenant. Will wins wars. Anger wins wars. He turned to face her. Do you know what the galaxy's biggest mistake was? Myra shook her head. They saw our diplomats and thought they represented all of humanity. They saw our kindest souls, our believers in peace, and assumed we were all the same. June's eyes were dark and cold, like deep water hiding sharp rocks. They do not know about our history. They do not know about our wars, our conquests, our capacity for violence. We sent them our best. They killed them. Now they will meet our worst. In another section of the hidden base, engineer Jin Kang worked on something that made even veteran soldiers nervous. It was called the Blackout Protocol, a device that could shut down all technology within an entire solar system. Jin had invented it during the Mars Rebellion, then destroyed all records of its existence out of shame. Now he was building it again. I swore I would never make another one, he said to no one. His hands moved automatically, connecting wires and circuits. I swore these hands would only create things that help people. He thought of the execution video. He thought of Dr. Yuna Beek, who he had known since childhood, dying on her knees in an alien courtyard. But some promises are meant to be broken. On the 6th day, a single probe emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Korath territory. It was small, barely larger than a human, but it carried a message that would be heard across the galaxy. The probe activated, broadcasting on every frequency in every known language. Attention, Korath Empire. You have killed 47 citizens of Earth who came to you in peace. You recorded their deaths and shared them as entertainment. You laughed while innocent people died. This message is your one chance at mercy. You have 24 standard hours to release a formal apology and surrender your high command for trial. If you refuse, Earth will consider itself at war with your empire. There will be no further warnings. There will be no negotiations. There will only be consequences. You taught us that peace is weakness. We will now teach you that our weakness was a choice. This is humanity's final offer. High Empress Vothari received the message while eating. She laughed so hard that food fell from her mouth. Her generals laughed with her. A species that could not even protect its diplomats was threatening the greatest empire in the galaxy. It was the funniest thing she had heard in centuries. She ordered the probe destroyed. Then she sent an additional message to her third armada. When you reach Earth, do not make it quick. Make them suffer. Make them scream loud enough for the whole galaxy to hear. The probe exploded in a flash of light. On Earth, Admiral June watched the Korath response. He had hoped, in some small part of his heart, that they would surrender. His sister would have wanted him to give them the chance, that they had made their choice. June stood and faced his officers. The room fell silent. They have chosen war, he said quietly. So war they shall have. Alert all stations. Wake up every sleeping ship. Call home every soldier on leave. The morning fleet launches in 12 hours. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of 4 billion furious humans. And may whatever gods they believe in have mercy on their souls. Because we will not. Outside, the stars seemed to grow colder. Thunder was coming. The Korath Third Armada entered Earth's solar system like a dark cloud covering the sun. 1,200 warships, each one bristling with weapons, each one carrying thousands of soldiers hungry for blood. Admiral Grethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger in his view. Scan for defenses, he ordered. His officers worked for several minutes, then reported back with confusion in their voices. Sir, we detect nothing. No defense platforms. No fleet formations. No orbital stations. The planet is unprotected. Grethkar's mandibles clicked with pleasure. They are hiding. They are afraid. Just as the Empress predicted. He opened a channel to his entire fleet. All ships, advance. We will burn their cities one by one. We will make them watch their world die. Today, we add Earth to our collection of conquered species. The Armada moved forward, thousands of engines burning bright. Against the darkness of space, they did not notice that the sun had begun to flicker. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Park Jun watched the enemy fleet approach. His ship was hidden behind Mars, along with 842 others. They were smaller than Korath vessels. They were fewer in number, but they carried something the Korath had never faced before. Rage. Cold, patient, terrible rage. Admiral, Lieutenant Mira reported, the solar array is charged and ready. Enemy fleet is entering the kill zone. June nodded. On my command, activate the array. Then launch all fighters. Tell every ship captain the same thing. No retreat. We end this today, or we die trying. The Third Armada was halfway to Earth when the sun went wrong. Massive flares erupted from the star's surface, but they did not spread randomly like natural phenomena. They moved with purpose, like the fingers of a giant hand reaching across space. The Korath had shields designed to handle radiation. They were not designed to handle a weaponized star. The first wave of solar energy hit the Armada like a hammer made of fire. Shields flickered and failed. Hull plating melted. 300 ships simply ceased to exist, vaporized in seconds by heat beyond imagination. What is happening? Grethkar screamed, watching his fleet burn. This is impossible. No species can control a star. Before anyone could answer, the human fleet emerged from behind Mars. They came in silence. No war cries or threats broadcast across communications. They came like ghosts rising from a grave. And their ships were nothing like the elegant diplomatic vessel the Korath had seen before. These were ugly things, angular and brutal, covered in weapons and armor. They looked like they had been built by people who expected to die and wanted to take as many enemies with them as possible, because that was exactly what they were. The battle began with fire and death. Human ships did not fight like other species. The Korath were used to enemies who kept their distance, who followed rules of engagement, who valued their own survival. Humans did not seem to care about survival. They flew straight into enemy formations and opened fire at point-blank range. When their weapons ran empty, they used their ships as weapons. The destroyer Silent Fury, commanded by Captain Yoon, found itself facing a Korath dreadnought 10 times its size. A sane commander would have retreated. Mira ordered her ship forward at maximum speed. All hands, race for impact, she announced calmly. It has been an honor serving with you. The Silent Fury hit the dreadnought's hangar bay at full velocity, penetrating deep into the massive ship before Myra triggered the reactor overload. The explosion tore the dreadnought in half from the inside. Myra survived, barely. Her escape pod was thrown clear by the blast, spinning through the debris of 2 ships until a rescue craft found her floating among the stars. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out again and again. Human ships sacrificing themselves to take down larger enemies. Pilots ramming their fighters into bridge towers. Engineers overloading their reactors rather than surrendering. Admiral June led from the front, his flagship Retribution cutting through enemy formations like a knife through flesh. He did not give inspiring speeches. He did not need to. Every human in the fleet had seen the execution video. Every human knew why they were fighting. The Korath had never faced anything like this. Their enemies always broke eventually. Their enemies always ran when the losses became too great. But these humans kept coming, wave after wave, paying in blood for every inch of space. Admiral Grethkar watched his fleet die around him. 1,200 ships reduced to 500, then 300, then 100. He tried to order a retreat, but human ships blocked every escape route. "Fight to the end," he commanded, trying to sound brave. But his voice trembled, and his officers heard fear for the first time. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 17 Korath ships limped away into hyperspace, barely able to fly. The rest were debris, spreading slowly through the solar system like the ashes of a funeral pyre. Humanity had lost 400 ships. Thousands of soldiers were dead. But they had won. Admiral June stood on his bridge, looking at the wreckage floating in space. He felt no joy, no satisfaction, only a cold emptiness where his heart used to be. He opened the communication channel to the Korath homeworld. His face appeared on every screen in their empire, calm and expressionless. "Your third armada no longer exists. 1,200 ships destroyed. Your invasion has failed." He paused, letting his words sink in. "This is not a victory celebration. This is a warning. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Continue this war, and we will bring it to your doorstep. You have 1 week to respond." High Empress Valthari received the message in her throne room. For the first time in her long life, she felt something cold creep into her heart. But she was too proud to surrender, too proud to admit she had made a terrible mistake. Instead, she ordered the execution of human prisoners from a colony ship captured years ago. The response reached Earth within hours. Admiral June watched the recording of innocent humans dying. His expression did not change. His hands did not shake. He simply turned to his officers and spoke in a voice like winter wind. "So be it. Plot a course for the Korath homeworld. The morning fleet moves at dawn." The galaxy watched in terror. The humans were not satisfied with defense. They were coming for revenge. The morning fleet moved through Korath space like a slow storm. 400 ships, battered but unbroken, carrying soldiers who had nothing left to lose. Admiral Park Jun led them from the retribution, his eyes always forward, always watching for the next battle. But this was not a campaign of destruction. This was something the galaxy had never seen before. Human forces struck military bases with overwhelming power, reducing them to rubble within hours. They destroyed weapons factories and shipyards. They hunted down Korath war fleets and gave them the same mercy. The Korath had given Earth's diplomats, but when they encountered civilians, something strange happened. Nothing. Human soldiers walked past Korath families without raising their weapons. They left food production centers untouched. They protected hospitals and schools from the chaos of war. When cities surrendered, human forces entered peacefully, arrested military leaders, and left everything else standing. The Korath did not understand. This was not how war worked. Conquerors destroyed. Conquerors took everything. Conquerors showed no mercy to anyone. Corporal Hanali was among the first humans to set foot on a Korath world. She was a small woman with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. She carried her rifle with the ease of someone who had used it many times. But her finger never touched the trigger. Unless necessary. Her squad moved through a residential district on the planet Veth4, searching for hidden soldiers. The streets were empty. The Korath civilians had fled into their homes, waiting for the massacre they were certain would come. Hannah kicked open a door and found herself facing a Korath mother and 3 young children. The mother stood in front of her offspring, arms spread wide, ready to die protecting them. For a long moment, no one moved. Hannah lowered her rifle. She reached into her pack and pulled out a ration bar, holding it out toward the children. The mother hissed in confusion. "You do not kill us?" "We are not here for you," Hannah replied. Her translator device converted her words into the Korath language. "We are here for you, soldiers. Your leaders. The ones who ordered the death of our people. But we are your enemy." Hannah shook her head slowly. "Your children did not kill my friends. Your families did not laugh while our ambassadors died. We know the difference between the guilty and the innocent." She set the ration bar on the ground and stepped back. "Stay inside. Stay quiet. This will be over soon." She left without another word. Stories like this spread across the Korath worlds. Humans were terrifying in battle, yes. They fought with a rage that seemed to have no limit. But when the fighting stopped, they became something else entirely. They became judges, separating the guilty from the innocent with careful precision. This frightened the Korath leadership more than any weapon could. The Galactic Council watched humanity's advance with growing alarm. These small creatures from a small planet were doing the impossible. They were not just surviving against the Korath. They were winning. And if they could defeat the Korath, they could defeat anyone. An emergency session was called. Representatives from 12 species gathered to discuss what to do about the human problem. "We must demand they stop," the representative from the Veloth Collective said. "They are disrupting the balance of power. They are making the Korath look weak, and if the Korath look weak, others might rebel." "They lost 47 of their people," another representative pointed out. "Surely they have done enough damage now. Surely they will accept a peace agreement." They sent a formal demand to the Morning Fleet, ordering humanity to cease hostilities immediately. Admiral June appeared before them via holographic transmission. His face was tired, but his eyes burned with cold fire. "You speak to me of peace," he said quietly. "You, who watched our diplomats die and did nothing. You, who called us foolish for trying to make friends instead of war. You, who told us to accept our place at the bottom of your society." He leaned forward, and several representatives stepped back from his image. "The Korath taught us a lesson. They taught us that the galaxy respects only strength. They taught us that kindness is seen as weakness. They killed the best of us to make that point clear." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Now we are teaching the galaxy a different lesson. We are showing you that our kindness was not weakness. It was a gift. A gift you rejected. The strength you wanted to see? It was always there. We simply chose not to use it." He straightened, his expression hardening. "We will not stop until the ones responsible face justice. You may not interfere. You may not help the Korath. If you do, you will learn the same lesson they are learning now." The transmission ended. The Galactic Council sat in stunned silence. They had ruled this section of space for thousands of years through careful manipulation and balance of power. Now a species barely a century into space, travel was tearing apart their entire system, and they could do nothing to stop it. The Morning Fleet continued its advance. World after world fell. The Korath military, once the terror of the galaxy, crumbled like dry leaves in a fire. On the flagship Retribution, engineer Jin Kang finished construction of the Blackout Protocol device. He brought it to Admiral June, his hands trembling slightly. "It is ready," he said. "One activation, and the entire Korath home system goes dark. Every ship, every station, every piece of technology stops working. Billions would die from the chaos alone." June looked at the device for a long time. It was small, barely larger than his fist. Such a tiny thing to hold so much death. Dr. Unibeek, who had survived the Aurora massacre by hiding under bodies, entered the room. She had recovered slowly, her mind scarred by what she had witnessed. But she had refused to stay on Earth. She needed to see this through. "Nari would not want this," she said softly. She went to them with open hands. She believed in redemption, even for monsters. June closed his eyes. When he spoke, His voice was heavy with exhaustion. Then what would she want? Justice, not genocide. There's a difference. The Admiral placed the blackout device on the table and stepped away from it. Then we will find another way. The fleet moved on, toward the final battle, toward the Korath homeworld. The morning fleet arrived at the Korath homeworld on a day that would be remembered for 1,000 years. 400 human ships hung in orbit above the dark red planet. Their weapons pointed at the surface where billions of Korath civilians lived. Admiral Park Jun stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking down at the world that had murdered his sister. His hand rested on the communication controls. One word from him and the bombardment would begin. One word, and he could end the Korath species forever. But Nari's voice echoed in his memory. Her last words, spoken with blood on her lips but no hate in her heart. You could have had friends. He opened a channel that broadcast to every corner of the Korath homeworld. People of the Korath Empire. I am Admiral Park Jun of Earth. Your military is destroyed. Your colonies have surrendered. Your empire has fallen. He paused, letting the words settle into billions of hearts. I have the power to end your civilization today. My ships carry weapons that would turn your world to glass. Many of my people want me to use them. They want revenge for the 47 innocents your Empress murdered. On the surface, High Empress Velthari watched the transmission with fear she could no longer hide. Her generals had abandoned her. Her guards looked at her with hatred instead of loyalty. She had brought this disaster upon her people through pride and cruelty, and everyone knew it. June continued, "But we did not come here to become you. We did not cross the stars to commit genocide. We came for justice." His voice hardened. "Surrender High Empress Velthari and every official who ordered or participated in the massacre of our diplomats. Accept human oversight of your military for 100 years. Pay reparations to the families of the 47. Do this, and your planet survives. Your people live. Your future continues." He leaned forward, his eyes burning through the screen. "Refuse, and I will not stop what comes next. This is my final offer. You have 6 hours." The transmission ended. Across the Korath homeworld, something unprecedented happened. The Gaman people, who had lived under the Empress's cruel rule for centuries, began to rise. They had watched their empire fall. They had seen humans spare their families while destroying their armies. They understood now that their leaders had brought this suffering upon them through senseless violence. Crowds gathered outside the imperial palace. Millions of Korath, clicking and screaming in rage, demanding the Empress's head. Velthari tried to flee, but her own guards blocked her path. "You killed their diplomats for entertainment," one guard said, his voice cold. "You doomed us all for your amusement. Now you will answer for it." They dragged her from her throne of bones and threw her into the streets. The crowd parted, creating a path toward the human landing craft that had touched down in the central square. Corporal Hana Lee was there, standing at attention with her squad. She watched the once mighty Empress being pushed toward her, covered in filth, stripped of all dignity. "I will not beg," Velthari hissed. "I am the ruler of 1,000 worlds." Hana looked at her without expression. "You were. Now you are a prisoner charged with murder. History will remember you as the fool who woke up humanity." The Empress was taken aboard the landing craft and transported to the Retribution. Admiral June did not speak to her. He did not need to. He simply ordered her placed in the deepest cell on the ship, where she would wait for her trial. The trial took place 6 months later in a new building constructed on neutral ground. For the first time in galactic history, representatives from every species gathered to judge a war criminal. Humans sat beside former Korath enemies. Victims testified about massacres and cruelty that had lasted for centuries. Velthari was found guilty on every charge. But she was not executed. That would have been too easy, too quick. Instead, she was sentenced to life imprisonment on a barren asteroid at the edge of known space. She would spend her remaining centuries watching, through a tiny window, as the empire she had built was slowly dismantled and rebuilt into something better. The Korath. People accepted human oversight, not because they were forced to, but because they had seen how humans treated their civilians during the war. They had expected monsters and found something far more terrifying. People who could destroy them completely, but chose not to. Admiral June returned to Earth a hero, but he did not feel like one. He visited his sister's memorial, a simple garden where her favorite flowers grew in the shadow of a white stone bearing her name. For the first time since her death, he allowed himself to weep. Lieutenant Mira Yoon, now promoted to captain, was given command of a new peacekeeping vessel. Her mission was to patrol the former Korath territories, protecting civilians and ensuring the peace was maintained. She carried scars from the Battle of Seoul, but she carried something else too. Hope that the violence was finally over. Corporal Hannah Lee requested transfer to a new program designed to build relationships between humans and Korath civilians. She spent her days teaching human children about alien cultures and alien children about Earth. It was difficult work, full of misunderstandings and fear. But she believed it was the most important thing she could do. Dr. Unibeek established a new diplomatic academy on Earth, training the next generation of ambassadors. She made sure every student understood the risks. She also made sure they understood why it was worth trying anyway. Engineer Jin Kang destroyed the Blackout Protocol device with his own hands, then published the designs with a detailed explanation of why no one should ever build another one. He spent the rest of his career designing ships that carried explorers instead of soldiers, and in the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers, a statue was placed at the entrance. It showed a small human woman with kind eyes and an outstretched hand. The inscription beneath it was written in every known language. Ambassador Nari Kim of Earth. She came with open hands, offering friendship to those who knew only war. She was murdered for her kindness, but her dream of peace did not die with her. Humanity finished what she started, with clenched fists to stop the violence, then open hands once more to build a better galaxy. Let all who pass remember that true strength is not the ability to destroy. It is the courage to choose mercy when destruction would be easier. The galaxy never forgot the lesson humanity taught them. Peace is not weakness. Kindness is not foolishness. And those who mistake mercy for helplessness will learn too late that the gentle hands they mocked can also become fists. But humanity hoped with all their hearts that they would never have to teach that lesson again. The stars were quiet now, and somewhere, in a garden on a small blue world, flowers grew in the sunshine, and the universe continued its endless journey towards something better.